So what I'm going to try to do here today is a little demonstration on how the grading and drainage on your yard would work, especially in relation to where plants are planted. So I've set up a little demonstration here on a house where obviously we don't have any landscaping in yet, but this one has been rough graded, pretty close to what it's going to be graded once the house is here. Looking the direction we're looking right now, the grading goes from the high on the right to the low on the left, and then basically down towards where we're filming from here. And I've set up some stuff over here to simulate some sod or some mulch, and then I've dug a couple of plant holes, and we're going to put some water on our sod, let it flow over to the plant holes, and we're just going to see what's going to happen with these plant holes. So coming over here, this burlap that I've laid down is to simulate the sod or mulch, and then I've dug a couple of plant holes here, one here and one here, and water's gonna go through that burlap and just trickle down along the top of the soil underneath the burlap, and the burlap's just to help prevent erosion so we don't get a bunch of dirt that flows along with the water, just like the sod or the mulch prevents the erosion as well. And the water's gonna fall into these holes, and it's literally gonna start to fill up these holes. And actually, before we get started, I'm going to take this hole right here and I'm going to fill it basically to the top with the soil that I dug out of it. And that soil is going to be more loosely compacted than the soil at the bottom of the hole when I dug the hole. That soil at the bottom may have never been disturbed. It might not ever have been dug up at any point in the past. And it's pretty hard and impermeable. The water just doesn't soak down through the bottom of the hole very well. But when you put a plant in, the dirt that you put around it is definitely more loosely compacted, and you just can't really get around that. And you don't want to try to compact it too tightly around the plant. So the water that flows down to this hole, when I fill it with dirt, is still going to go down into the hole. It's just going to fill the void spaces between the more loosely compacted soil, and it's going to fill up that hole just between those little void spaces. So in the end, both of these holes are basically going to become little bathtubs filled with water. And there's really no way around that. It's not we do anything wrong when we landscape, or you do anything wrong when you water. When you've got new sod, you have to water it a lot to keep it alive. And the extra water flows downhill, and where it comes to a plant hole, it goes down in that plant hole, but it doesn't soak out the bottom of the plant hole very easy, because a lot of times that's undisturbed soil, and it's really tightly compacted and just not very permeable to water. So I'm going to shut down here, fill one of these holes up, and then we'll get started again. So we're back here. I've gone ahead and I've filled in one of the holes, like I said. The one here that was on the right, I've just filled in with dirt, basically again to the top of the hole. Here's our other plant hole, still empty. And here's our little sprinkler system. And we're just going to spray water across this area up here and let it flow down to these holes. And then we'll come back and kind of check out what we get here in a few minutes. So I've been spraying water for a little while up on the burlap here, and just keeping the spray into the burlap, and it just starts flowing downhill, coming this direction, oozing out from underneath the burlap. Some of it's just going between what was the plant holes, the plant hole here and the filled plant hole here. But we're actually starting to get some moisture now down in the bottom of this hole. And the first time you water, the ground's really dry, and it takes a while for the water to work its way down like this. But the next time you water, after your sod goes in, the ground's already kind of wet, so it happens faster. The water gets here quicker, and the next time it's a little bit quicker yet, and the next time it's quicker yet, and you probably got 2 weeks worth of some pretty heavy watering on your sod before it starts doing any kind of rooting that you can cut back. That'll vary a little bit from house to house. So we're going to continue adding water here and then come back. Okay, so I've done some more spraying up here on the burlap, and the water's flowing down to the holes here, and here's the one that was empty. Definitely got, it's probably half full of water. And here's where we had a hole dug, and you can see some water been draining around that area. And what is probably happening that we really can't see right here is that a lot of that water is soaking down into that hole just through the little pores in the more loosely compacted soil around what would be a plant. getting to the bottom of that hole and not really soaking out the bottom of it. So it's just filling up the void spaces between all the soil particles in that hole and ending up with something probably kind of like this, but we just don't see it because it's still below the surface of the ground at this point in time. So I got a timer going. We're actually going to time how long does it take for this hole to kind of drain out of all the water. And this hole started perfectly dry. It had never been filled with water before. And so this first time it'll actually probably drain as fast as any time. The next time it'll drain a little bit slower because now the ground all around it's already wet. So we're going to shut off and then check back here in a little bit. So here we are back. It's a little more than 10 minutes later, and I'm standing on the opposite side now. So the plant hole that's filled is on our left now, and the one that we hadn't filled with dirt is on the right. And this is 10 minutes later, and just looking at it, to us it doesn't even hardly look like it's moved at all, that the water level really hasn't even dropped, and that's after probably 12 minutes now. And I'm going to do just a little bit more water running, and then I'm going to dig down into that dirt where the other plant hole is, and we'll come back and take a look at what I find there. Okay, so back here, and I'm going to do a little bit of digging now in this hole that we had filled with dirt and where the water has been flowing down into it, and see what we're going to find when we dig out a little bit of this loose dirt where a plant would be. So just taking a shovelful out here, and you can see it's some pretty wet stuff. And another shovelful here, once again pretty wet stuff. And we got water just starting to flow in from the sides, and so basically what we've got is another little area here that's just filling with water, and it was all the void spaces within the more loosely compacted soil there were just full of water. You weren't actually seeing it at the surface like you're seeing at the hole where we don't have any dirt in it, but it was all full of water. And again, there's really no way around that. When you water the yard, when you got new sod, you just got to water it a lot, and that extra water is going to flow downhill, and wherever it comes to a plant hole, it's going to go in there. And so you just got to try to do the best you can, balancing the water needs of the sod and the plants to try to keep everything good. And then hopefully as your sod starts getting a little bit established, you start cutting back, and then you're able to keep your grass green and keep all the plants doing good without giving the plants too much water. But again, it's something we struggle with. You're going to struggle with it a little bit, and it's just one of the facts of having a new yard going in.